In the initial diagnosis of stable, undifferentiated, regular, monomorphic, wide complex tachycardia. In other words, they're recommending adenosine for those patients who actually have SVT but with aberrant conduction, which gives them a wide complex looking rhythm. I have a bit of trouble with this one because sometimes a patient is going so fast they look regular when in fact they're irregular. And in the patient who say has rapid AFib with WPW, then giving them adenosine could block the AV node and send them into a VFib arrest. What's your take on this recommendation for adenosine in the stable, undifferentiated, regular, monomorphic, wide complex tachycardia?
Well, let's look at how the guidelines are written. Okay, first they say that you're going to assess the stability of the patient, and then one of the key parts of all the stable tachycardia algorithms is considered extra quantification. And so when you find yourself in that gray area where the comfort level may not be that great, or your experience or your ability to interpret the rhythm may not be that great, you have to stay the patient. I would make sure that you've got someone involved in the care who was that expert of whatever level, someone who's comfortable with doing that arrhythmia. Having said that, I understand what the rationale is for using adenosine. That a small portion of these monomorphic wide complex tachycardias, a small proportion are SVTs with aberrant conduction, a large proportion are BTAC. If it's the former, then a dose of adenosine will convert the rhythm. If it's BTAC, and a dose of adenosine will do virtually nothing, although there are some cases of conversion. And if you're careful, you won't be giving adenosine to those cases where you misdiagnose the rhythm.
I understand why people are a little bit hesitant about this one. Is that really ugly, polymorphic, obviously irregular atrial fibrillation that is usually quite obvious in both Parkinson White going down the accessory pathway. And really those
wrote back, I can't tell you what the level of commitment, and it's because, I think, because everyone really thought that they were helping each other, me, do a public service, which is to say, let's dispel some important myths, let's get a ground level view, let's get a sober view of where we are, what happens next, and where we're going.
All right, well, it's actually amazing. I wasn't aware of that. Now, let's fast forward. The book's out, and sometime in 2011, how do you get notified that you've won the Pulitzer Prize?
So just it's one of these wonderful experiences. I had the luxury of meeting Paul Greencard, who won the Nobel Prize, and we did a tape together in which we talked together for. It's called it's an exchange of moments in which you're told this unbelievable announcement. In my case, it's an interesting story. I had gone downtown to meet Tina Brown, who was the editor of Newsweek.
Sure.
And if you know Manhattan, my laboratory is on 168th Street uptown, and Tina's office then was way downtown. And so, if you know Manhattan, that's like traveling from Earth to Mars. And for some reason, I'd forgotten that my appointment had been made that way. And I woke up. I was uptown in my office. I went into my office, and I was in a foul mood. I said, "Oh my God, I have to travel." It's like saying you have to wake up this morning and go to Mars. So I was going in the train. I was going downtown. I had lunch with Tina. It was lovely. My mood was somewhat repaired by lunch, and I left. And then my cell phone essentially went off. It finished having charge. So I was there, stranded downtown. And then finally, I got to a place that I was to charge my phone, and I had 12 messages.
Oh my God!
And I said, "Well, this is very unusual. Something bizarre has happened." And then so someone had left a message saying congratulations, because it was just the prizes had just been announced. And so this is the last bit of the story. Is I called up my wife and I said, "Now this could be a prank. So can you please check and check for me?" So she logs onto the web, and of course, when the Pulitzers are announced, the website goes down immediately. And it's like the Nobel Prize website, which inevitably crashes when the prize is announced. So for 2 minutes, I was on the phone, and my wife saying, "Actually, the website's crashed." But finally,
so they actually don't contact you directly.
They later contact you. They call you. Eventually, they call you, and yes, they contact you directly. But there's a waiting period in which you don't know.
Okay. Now this was a life changer for you, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, how could it not be?
Yeah. So now we're going to get into the physician scientist side in a second. But how do you go? You write your first book. You win the Pulitzer Prize, nonfiction. How do you go from there? Are you going to continue writing?
I'm writing a new book. I'm writing a book on the history of the gene, and actually I'm writing a book on the future of the gene. And in some ways, it obviously takes off some similar elements of this book. Their social histories, their intellectual histories, they span time and space.
Do you weave patient stories in?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's rich.
Yeah. And I think in fact I will leave it a little bit of suspense in it, but there's a very personal story in the book. So actually my book is subtitled an intimate history, which is to bring, and that's I suppose part of my project. My general project is I'm interested in the structure of knowledge. How do we acquire it? Where does it break down? What are its consequences? What are the cultures that allow us to possess it, to grasp it, and where is it lost? How do we delude ourselves with it? All of those things.
Sure. And when is that due, you think?
2015.
Okay, not far away.
Yeah.
So this one hasn't taken 6 years.
Well, the time adds up.
Okay. Now, you will practice as an oncologist. And how do you balance that with also being in the lab?
So my practice is very limited. I practice, it's a practice that focuses on a pre-leukemic disease called myelodysplastic syndromes. They're complex diseases. I like the complexity, but one of the ways that I manage is really by having a very tight intellectual intellectual focus in my practice. And essentially, I see patients with MDS. Now, twice a year, I will go to the wards and do a very general practice. I call it my refresher course, and it reminds you where we are sort of more globally, and that's when I see the entire spectrum of patients with breast cancer, lung cancer, ovarian cancer, and all its and everything. For me, it's an experience that grounds me, and it's very important. I keep that. It's very precious time for me.
And in the lab, you're studying hematopoietic stem cells to understand myelodysplasia?
That's right. So our focus in the laboratory is to try to link steps between stem cells and cancer, focusing particularly on blood cancers, because we know those cancers better than really those cells, the stem cells, better than any other cell.
There's almost too much overlap between stem cells and cancer.
Well, that's one thought, is that cancer in fact arises by co-opting or parasitizing or